I can only speak to my own brain, but something like walking down the street is a totally different, like, multi-dimensional experience than a neurotypical person would have walking down the street. And it's not like a bad thing or a difficulty, it's just a different experience. I personally am autistic. I have Asperger's syndrome. I think it's pretty amazing and pretty even revolutionary that Seesaw is creating a space in which disability, specifically autism, is centered, really an anti-normative space where anyone can navigate in the manner that makes sense to them. Seesaw is based on multisensory theater for autistic children, and that's because autistic people's brains process sensory input differently and sometimes a lot more intensely.
It isn't just a smile internally. It isn't just a thought internally. The whole body jumps with joy, or the whole body is responding with an aha moment. And you don't do that in the theater. You sit politely and properly in the seat, and then you applaud at the end. But in Seesaw, the minute these children come in, they're throwing balls, they're jumping, they're crawling on the floor. The whole body is present.
A home for us to share, where fairies fly and pixies roam. We'd love to take you there.
I first heard about Seesaw through emails from Alex's teacher. Alex has Down syndrome. So far he's loved everything about the arts that we've shown him. Really loves music.
He loves music. James introduced him to Beatles, to David Bowie. So Be My Wife is one of the favorite songs of Alex. At the beginning, we were, like any other parents of kids with Down syndrome, we were more thinking about Down syndrome and how it affects our son's personality. While now it's more enjoying him the way he is.
Yeah, of course there's a need for theater like this because obviously certain kids are going to not be able to participate or enjoy sort of a traditional format. It made me realize that there's really a need for such work for kids, and made me appreciate Seesaw very much.
Welcome to Wanderland.
It's not linear. I mean, it is emotional and it is responsive, but it is not in a traditional theater scripted mode, which is why it's really fun. I mean, because you don't know what's going to happen.
We're trying to create more songs that are interactive. So for example, with our fairy pixie song, they sing about we need pixie dust to make these flowers grow. So then we actually get to play with the pixie dust, and then we find out that we get the flowers, and then we get to play with the flowers.
It's fun because the music comes out of the rehearsal room, so we have had a lot of ideas this whole year leading up, but really we haven't been able to start writing until they got into rehearsals. Because once the worlds are built, then the ensemble lets us know how they want music to function and where the songs are placed and what they're trying to do. In previous years, I was tuned to like standard tuning, which basically means that you have to like actually hold things down to make a chord make it sound good. But I realized that like kids love to just grab my guitar and play whatever, and I wanted to make that sound good. So I tuned it. This year, it's going to be tuned to an open tuning, meaning that an open strum is a chord, so everything, no matter what, will sound good. So that like sound can continue and kids can feel like they're actually playing music well.
Hold on tight with all your might and sway away with me. Raise up the sail.
This year, I'm trying to think critically about body language, think critically about gestures, because if you are not relying on verbal speech to communicate, then every part of your body becomes a potential for communication. Particularly being a nonverbal character this year is just one of many things that have caused me to really engage with like the diversity of the autistic community, and realizing that there are just so many ways to be a person is really wonderful.
And I thought it would be very high energy, and you can also do as good as home. And if you could, third floor.
So something we pride ourselves on is trying to give a one-on-one experience, or as close to a one-on-one experience as you can get. So every single audience member is paired with an adventure guide. They get information on the audience member as much as teachers or parents are willing to share, and it's usually like likes, dislikes, things to know before entering the space. And it's usually like if they use a communication device, how they communicate, are they mobile, and what does their mobility look like? Are they sensitive to certain things? A lot of kids are sensitive to loud sounds or bright lights, so things like that to be aware. And then the adventure guides give them that one-on-one experience throughout, so they stay with them the whole entire show. They don't leave their side, and they present all the experiences. So everything is shared between the audience member and the adventure guide. And sometimes cast members will come, and it'll be the three of them sharing an experience. But the idea is that to make sure that the kid is never alone, and the kid gets the experience that they want to have.
When kids enter the space, they're afraid they're going to get in trouble for a lot of the things that they're encouraged to do in our space, like running around, like touching things, like playing, interjecting into characters. They're afraid that they're going to get in trouble for a lot of those things. And as the time goes on, when they realize they have the agency to make their own choices and not just things that their parents or aides are telling them to do, is very special.
I got the info and I just knew his name was Alex. We saw him walking up to the theater with his dad and we were like, he was the first kid there. So everybody was so excited, to the point that it was almost hard for me to like be there and be sure he was safe, because everybody wanted to hang out with him. We were so ready to get kids in the space that morning. Part two.
Whenever we play with a new thing, you can say yes, please, or no, thank you. Hey, Elf, do you want to play with my scarf? No, thank you. Hey, Fairy, do you want to play with my scarf? Yes, please. Guideline number 3, have fun! We weren't sure what we'd find here, and we're so glad it's you. We'll have so many new friends when our adventures through. We've got a wonderful world. You can touch, taste, smell, and hear and see. So won't you follow me? What are you waiting for? Let's jump on it. Yeah. Let's go to Wanderland. So excited. We'll travel hand in hand to guide you through Wanderland. Has anyone seen the fawn? I'm so excited to
to be able to tell a child, like, this is your space, particularly a child who has kind of been systematically denied the opportunity to claim space and the opportunity to play and be themselves to the full extent, is just really wonderful. And to see a child over the course of the show just become empowered and to realize their own agency is really, really wonderful.
I may have been his adventure guide, but like at the end of the day, like they're taking you on an adventure and you're just there to be sure that they're able to have whatever adventure they want.
But now our journey is done. We saw an enchanted something sweet and fairy, a fawn and a festival of lights. Though all adventures must end, we'll always have our new friends. So cherish our memories and all our discoveries. We'll guide you back to your own. But when you need a helping hand, remember there's Wanderland. So be here at our command. You're always welcome in Wanderland.
A lot of parents who have kids with disabilities, we expect to be able to move about society just like anybody else. You know, our kids may be different, but you know, they have just as much right to access something as anybody else.
I hope all the participants of Seesaw will, as audience members, support theaters that are inclusive and make that demand. This is the norm rather than the exception. The world needs to see this and know what's happening.